I wonder if 5 p.m. yesterday was a bit of a case of waiting for your name to be called, in as far as the ANC is concerned. That was the deadline that had been set for provincial structures to submit names of people who are implicated in corruption and people who've been charged with corruption. It's not a process that's without controversy, of course, within the ANC itself, the so-called step-aside policy, because the ANC is collating these names with the intention to then signal to those people to step aside, with some officials already having been given about 30 days, and in fact that's less than 30 days by now, to step aside or face summary suspension. Let's bring in the ANC Treasurer General, that is Paul Mashatile, who will be in conversation with my colleague Ayesha Ismail from Cape Town. Ayesha, take it away.
So, yes, Teresi's, where, as you say, that deadline was on the 15th of April, which was yesterday, and we're now joined by Paul Mashatile. Treasurer General, where are we now with the step-aside rule?
You'll recall that in the last meeting of the NEC, we decided that we will give ourselves 30 days to process these matters, because the guidelines requires that if you are charged, formally indicted in a court of law, you should step aside immediately. And therefore we're giving comrades opportunities to go through that process. The 30 days will probably be around the 29th of this month. That's when the officials will revisit the matter. We have been asked by the NEC to process all the cases that have been dealt with by the Integrity Commission. So that work will be done before we go back to the NEC to report.
So what happens if people do not heed the call to step aside by the deadline?
There are a number of processes that kicks in. Firstly, if you are charged, the guideline says you should step aside immediately. There are comrades who may want to explain themselves to the Integrity Commission why they have not stepped aside. Then the Integrity Commission will then decide what to do with those cases and report to the NEC. Once the NEC takes a decision that the report of the Integrity Commission should be upheld, and a comrade has not stepped aside, that comrade may then be suspended by the NEC.
So let's get back to, this is not something new in the African National Congress, the step-aside rule. This resolution was adopted in 2017 already at Nasrec. Yeah. Why is it only being implemented now?
Yes, you are correct. It's not a new decision. In fact, even the National General Council in 2015 took this decision. That's why if you read the guidelines, you'll see we start from there. We go to the 54th conference. Perhaps what was the delay is because there were no guidelines for implementation. So the resolution was there, but the NEC did not have a way of implementing it, so they then asked the officials to come up with the guidelines on how do we implement this. The officials then looked at the matter, then came with the guidelines, which are now adopted by the NEC. And the guidelines look at two categories. It looks at those who are charged. It looks at those who have allegations against them. And those processes are not dealt the same way. If you are charged, the guidelines says step aside. If there are allegations against you, the guideline says present yourself to the Integrity Commission. The Integrity Commission will hear you, and then the Integrity Commission will decide. The Integrity Commission may well say, okay, there's no problem with this allegation, or the Integrity Commission may say, yes, because of this allegation, you should step aside. And that report will go to the NEC. But the guidelines do also make provision for comrades who want to appeal the decisions of the Integrity Commission. And once they appeal, the NEC probably mandating the officials will then appoint a panel to look at those appeals and bring them back to the NEC for finality.
As a senior member of the African National Congress, the Treasurer General, are you shocked by the levels of corruption within the ANC?
Well, the ANC is a big organization, and as a big organization, it will have a lot of challenges, including comrades alleged to be involved in corruption. And I think that's why a resolution was taken at conference that we need to deal decisively with this matter. And we are doing so. So the guidelines are part of the way we will be implementing decisions of conference to deal decisively with problems of corruption. But also we are strengthening our political school to ensure that comrades are educated, because you don't want comrades just to leave them to see to finish. You must continue to educate them, to conscientize them, to make sure they understand the values of the African National Congress, of integrity, of working selflessly for the people, not for themselves. So education in the ANC also plays an important role to deal with corruption. So it's something that we take very seriously.
Now, coming to the Secretary General of the African National Congress, Mr. Mashatile, he's facing about 21 charges of corruption, and his matter is before court. Should he not be setting an example by voluntarily stepping aside?
Well, the Secretary General, in discussion with the officials, requested that he would like to do some consultation with some leaders of our movement. He indicated he would like to consult with former President Jacob Zuma, former President Thabo Mbeki. He will also want to consult with former President of the Republic, Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe. He is also going to talk to Comrade Matthew Posa. We have agreed to that, and he will then finally consult with President Cyril Ramaphosa and say, this is how I want the matter be dealt with. So we have agreed that we think it's fair to give him the opportunity to do so. At the end of that process, in 30 days, he will then come back to us and say, look, this is my decision on the matter, and then we'll take matters from there.
Now, we've known and we've seen this for a long time, the divisions within the ANC, but since the step-aside announcement was made on the 29th of March, we've seen even, the deeper divisions, and this has actually gone public. As the ANC, how are you going to be dealing with those divisions?
Well, you'll recall that the President's message, even at the last NEC, was unity. It's something that we continue to preach in the ANC. We are appealing to all our members to work together. We want unity in action. It's not something we'll achieve overnight. It's something that we continue to work on. We want a united ANC, because an ANC that is divided is weak, and the ANC that is divided cannot lead the people of South Africa, because the people of South Africa expect a united ANC to be a leader of society. So it's something that we're working on very hard to ensure that our comrades work together wherever they are. They may differ with views there and there. It's surely allowed. We can't all agree on all matters. But sometimes let's agree to disagree, but work in a common program to advance the work of transformation to bring about a better life for our people.
Thank you so much for your time. And Sizwe, as you heard Paul Mashatile talking about the step-aside rule, Now, we know that comrades within the ANC have been given 30 days to step aside, and that 30 days will expire, or is expected to expire, on the 29th of May. And let's see what happens, whether people will indeed step aside voluntarily, or whether they will be forced to do so through the structures of the ANC, and whether disciplinary action will be taken against those who do not step aside.
Yeah, absolutely, Ayesha. In fact, the number of days is now just 13, if we go by the timeline provided there by the ANC Treasurer General, Paul Mashatile, who's talking about the 29th of April being D-Day for people to step aside. eNCA's Ayesha Ismail live there for us in Cape Town. You heard the views of Paul Mashatile on that contentious issue within the ANC around whether or not people should be stepping aside as soon as they are charged with a crime, particularly crimes of corruption and other serious crimes. Let's